Hey everyone! Before we get into the episode, I want to apologize for the audio quality this week. Something went wrong with Carly's audio, and so she doesn't sound great. We'll be sure to fix this before next week. Sorry again, and thanks for bearing with us. Welcome to A Social Disease, a podcast for recapping and relating to Degrassi the Next Class. I'm your host, Jessie Mack.
And I'm Carly Jo Gear, also a host.
And this week we're talking about Season 1, Episode 3, #YesMeansYes. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're excited to introduce our first guest, Alyssa Todd. Hey, Alyssa.
Hi.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you were in high school versus who you are now?
I was sort of a floater in high school. Like, I wasn't part of the popular crowd, but I wasn't really particularly unpopular either. I was a little bit of a goody-goody, but I liked to hang out with the bad kids. So I kind of, I always had a thing for the bad boys, which hasn't changed.
And you were like kind of a scenester, or was that after?
That was after. I definitely wasn't really a scenester until I got into college, because there was no scene for me to be into in where my high school was.
Right.
And which character do you identify with the most on Degrassi?
I mean, I feel like I don't really identify with anybody on this current season other than maybe Frankie and her bad hair from last episode. I mean, I definitely had the chunky highlights going on when I was in high school. But I was not.
Oh, yeah. I brought a picture of Kelly Clarkson, like that first album of hers, to a hairstylist and was like, make me look like this. So I feel you on that chunky highlight.
Yeah, I must have been just a little bit older than you, because I was definitely into the like Britney Spears hair where it was like super straight and stringy, and she also had like the chunky highlights for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
It was all about that hair. I kept bringing it to my hairstylist. He was like, I can't do that for you. It was very upsetting.
So Frankie's like 10 years late on the chunky highlights.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, she really is.
So what do you do now? Like, what's your...
So I'm a social worker now, and I work with kids and their families after they've experienced abuse or sexual assault.
So today's topic is right up your alley,
right up my alley. Something that I know an awful lot about, maybe more about than most people would like to know.
I mean, how often in your daily job do you say #YesMeansYes?
I mean, I don't say hashtag as often as I would like to. I mean, I could start, but I think my coworkers might be a little concerned.
You got to relate to the kids.
I was going to say, yeah, if you want to talk to the kids.
I mean, sometimes they talk to me about Snapchat, and I feel like I know stuff about that. I can be like, oh, yeah, stories, and I feel like I know what's going on.
All right, cool. So this week's episode, we start out in the gym. So Zoe says to Tristan, like, yeah, mandatory intramural sports was a great idea. Everyone seems to be loving it. And then pan over to Hunter,
Sad,
and VJ, and they're all like, well, actually, no, not VJ. He's actually playing. And they're like, oh my God, great idea with the no eye contact rule. And then pan right over to VJ, who takes a ball right to the face. And honestly, that made me think of, like, in Clueless, where he really should have given the excuse where, like, he shouldn't play any sports where balls fly at his nose.
Miss Stoger, my plastic surgeon doesn't want me doing any activity where balls fly at my nose. Well, there goes your social life.
But unfortunately, he didn't make that excuse, so he had to play for some reason.
I'm a little confused about what a mandatory intramural is. So to me, intramurals are like an after-school activity, but if it's mandatory, it's not really an after-school activity. So I don't really understand this.
That was my confusion, too. That's why I was like, I don't know if this is after school.
I mean, is it just like a glorified gym class?
That's what it seemed like, but they were calling it mandatory intramurals as if it was an after-school program. But I don't, because I'm like, how would Tristan, as class president, he's like, I'm going to institute a class.
I'm going to institute a mandatory after-school activity. Like, what?
Which feels like a very unpopular thing to do.
Right?
Like, who's like, yeah, now I have to stay after school to participate in this mandatory intramural. Like, he would not get my vote.
Especially if you had gym class at that time. You're like, I have to do this again?
Yeah. And Zoe's being such a jerk about it. Like, when VJ gets hit with the ball and she's like, "What nerd down?" It's like,
Right?
why are you attacking people?
She's a terrible like representative for student council.
Yeah, she's a really evil. She's not even like a VP. She's just like Tristan's little pal that shows up. Like,
Right? Like,
She didn't get elected.
does she have a title?
I don't think so.
My running theme with this episode with Zoe and Tristan was they reminded me a lot of Dr. Evil and Mini-Me. Like the whole thing just reminded me a lot of Austin Powers. And so maybe she's just his Mini-Me.
That could be it. That could be very it. Yeah.
So is Hunter Seth Green in this equation?
I mean, maybe.
So we kind of get the first impression that this is essentially Tristan's first big presidential thing that he has instated in the school. And already being everyone's gay best friend is not really working for everybody. He is not taking care of all of his constituents.
So the Nerd Squad is terrible at b-ball. Hunter scores on his own team underhanded.
Granny shot.
Oh, yeah, the way he did that really reminded me of my sister and how she bowls. Like, she has a tendency
That's
to...
how we bowl.
Oh, is that how you all... Okay, I'm the only one taking bowling seriously. Okay.
Listen, I don't bowl
Yes,
that
you
way.
do.
I want to be clear. I do not bowl that way. Do not try to throw me under the bus.
No, actually, we don't bowl that way. We bowl a different way because Johnny pointed out, Johnny is my boyfriend, by the way. He pointed out that we bowl the same, but it's not like that underhanded thing. It's like we throw it and we just kind of like toss it and it lands and rolls.
I think y'all do an alley cat strike where you spin the ball and then push it and it goes really, really, really slowly.
I can't even get it out of the gutter, so.
Well, y'all would fail Tristan's presidency. But we digress. After Hunter scores on himself, everybody is laughing at him. Like, he is the laughing stock, and that will come up. So then we cut to the theme song. After the theme song, we are in the hallway with Zig and Maya, and they are feeding each other candies. Then I did notice there was a little Easter egg there where Zig was throwing the candies into Maya's mouth, and when he missed, she was like, "Oh, you should talk to Hunter."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, "Oh, I hadn't noticed that." Maybe I could watch that episode like 3 times to be really prepared for this. And I noticed that little Easter egg that I didn't realize. I was like, "Oh wow, they're already making fun of him," and this is like a period later.
Right.
So yes, Maya and Zig are having a grand old lovey-dovey time, and then Jonah comes up and is like, "Hey, I gotta steal your girlfriend because I got a new chord progression for this song, and the fingering is gonna blow your mind." And I think we can't help but feel that those words were really intentional. I'm like, if you're gonna play guitar, I've never heard of anybody who plays guitar specifically call it fingering.
I don't know.
Like, they might be like, the chords are really good, or maybe you guys are.
I was going to say, Alyssa, do you know about that?
I mean, my boyfriend, he's in 2 different bands. He plays guitar all the time. He's never talked to me about fingering his guitar in any way. Like, that is not...
So he doesn't...
His fingering has never blown your mind?
Like, we don't ever talk about fingering in the context of any sort of guitar playing or music in any way.
So he doesn't use it as a come on.
No, he definitely has never said anything about the fingering on his guitar was going to blow my mind. I can
See, I think
100%
I'm actually going to add to my Tinder profile that I'm just looking for a man whose fingering will blow my mind. And then in parentheses, on the chord progression.
I'd like to find out some more about the guys that you catch with that line on your Tinder profile.
Oh, my Tinder profile's such a thirst trap. I already catch my trash. But anyways, I digress again. So obviously, Zig is watching this whole thing play out. They are sharing, Jonah and Maya are sharing headphones, so which is obviously intimate. Then Jonah is taking it a step further, and he's like, got his hand on Maya's shoulder. And that really took me back, if you guys remember, when Emma started dating Chris in The Next Generation, and he was like playing her one of his songs, and he was tapping the beat on her chest.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, this really is taking me back to that, right? I'm gonna call back. I don't know. But clearly, I mean, no matter how codependent Zig is on Maya, Jonah was definitely being overly intimate and overly touchy-feely
Oh, yeah.
on showing her the fingering that was blowing her mind. And then Tiny shows up, and he has...
cracks me up this whole time. I wanted to write down everything he said in this scene.
Everything he said was terrible. I mean, it was hilarious, but it was terrible.
No, I wrote down a lot of it. He had so many analogies this episode, and it's weird because I don't feel like he ever has that many analogies at all ever in the rest of the series. Like, maybe I'm forgetting.
All his analogies are based around sex.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like he only has sex analogies. So basically, he brings up that he's like, yeah, her and Jonah make music together, but you two make beautiful music together. You know, sex. You have sex.
I love that he had to point out to Zig what he meant by that. Like, even Tiny's like, dude, you're my friend, but you are dumber than a post. Like, you don't know what's going on. I have to explain this to you.
Right. And then Tiny is like, it's almost as if he's like, remember, guys, in the audience, how I talked about Heisenberg and I'm really smart? Well, did you know that female harp seals, they find a new mate every single year to have sex with before they settle down? So clearly, Maya over here is looking like a sexed up female harp seal, just ready to pick a new guy for the new year. And that really upsets Zig because he had no idea that female harp seals were such sluts and that his girlfriend might be one.
Well, Tiny is like, if you don't man up, she's gonna bang Jonah.
Yeah, it's really odd. And it's like, I don't know where Tiny all of a sudden is like the officiant on sex. I didn't realize he was banging lots of girls.
Well, he's into all those butts, so.
True.
Yeah, that's it. He's getting all the dope butts. So yeah, then we head into English class. We've got Miles and Winston, and they are having a very, very intense conversation for the middle of class, basically about Miles' home life and how his dad's trying to come back and it's not fair, and they're trying to have a family dinner and he's not having it. And Esme is just trying to learn about iambic pentameter, to which she says she missed what the teacher said about iambic pentameter, and then Winston is like, it's a fancy word for saying things. What did he say?
I didn't write it down.
It was something about a way of saying things in a fancy way or something.
It is like, that's not what iambic pentameter is. Iambic pentameter is...
What is it?
It's how you stress syllables. So in Shakespeare, thank God you guys asked because I have an acting degree. So in Shakespeare, you're supposed to say things with different emphasis on different syllables.
Okay.
And iambic pentameter is breaking it down. Like, iambic pentameter is how many syllables are in each sentence. I think I'm going to fuck this up and somebody's going to be at home like,
That's how it is.
she doesn't know anything about Shakespeare. But it has to do with like how many syllable counts there are per line. And Shakespeare wrote like all of his syllable counts are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a pattern.
That's weird.
So what Winston
was wrong, clearly, then.
Winston was wrong. I'm smarter than Winston. And that's all you need to know. Thanks, Columbia College Chicago, with a degree. Esme is just trying to learn. So she shows up on the crazy train, choo-choo, and she cuts a chunk of her hair.
Her own hair.
And like a big chunk of her own hair.
And she has gorgeous hair. And she chopped it off.
No, and it wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to like just trim an inch off. She was like, let me do some fucking locks for love right here and take off like 8 inches.
She just has to donate. She's going to donate that to Frankie for her next look.
I mean, she was like, she cut off enough hair. I feel like she could have a mullet. Like, if she was cutting from the front, like she's halfway to a mullet now. She just needs to cut it on the other side. It was a large amount of hair.
Yeah, it was extremely jarring. I was like, that just proves how fucking intense Esme is. Like, she is no joke.
This is our introduction to Esme. Like, Jesus.
Literally, yeah. We were like, wow, Esme, she, like, is the definition of Degrassi.
She really cares about school.
I mean, the thing about Esme is that, so I watched this series, like, I started it when it first came out, and it just reminds me, like, rewatching it now, that I just hated Esme right from the start. Like,
you did?
She just like Yeah, like even like I was rewatching it today and I just had this like visceral reaction of being like, "Oh, she's just the worst."
That's my problem. Is I love Esme for the simple fact that she stirs the pot, and like every time I'm watching Degrassi, like when we're doing the recap episodes, and I'm like going back to season 11, and the girl who starts taking pain pills,
Mhm.
and like the moment she injures herself, I'm like, yes, take the pain pills, get addicted. Yes! Like, that's my problem with the show.
I mean, we root for the drama, so.
We do, and that's why I was like, girl, take out a whole freaking shaver and just take all your hair off. Let's do this. We move on to Hollingsworth Manor, as Jesse called it. I like it when you switch it up and call it Hollingsworth.
I need to come up with like more types of houses so that I can keep the joke going.
Yes. Okay, so we see the family and the dad, minus Miles, if I'm correct, right? Miles is not at the dinner table yet. And so Hunter is trying to get, while they're waiting, they're literally sitting there with a pot roast, chilling, not eating, waiting for Miles to show up. And Hunter, in the meantime, is trying to get his mom to sign paperwork so that he can get out of intramural sports. And his reasoning, the dad, of course, is like, you can't run away from your problems, says the man who cheated on his wife.
Right.
And apparently...
And then literally ran away from his problems.
Yeah, apparently beat his son. The jury's still out. We haven't quite gotten there yet. We're not sure. He references that he used another punching bag, but we'll figure that out later. But yeah, so he's all of a sudden lecturing Hunter as if he's a good father. And Hunter pulls up the meme, or the GIF, I'm sorry. There's a GIF of him that somebody in his school has created that says, dumb luck minus the luck. And it's him looking really excited about scoring the basket and then realizing that he scored on his own basket.
I love the mom goes, you look so handsome, though.
It was such a typical mom reaction to just be like, oh, my son.
I mean, I just have to say that Hunter and Miles and Frankie's dad has terrible hair.
It runs in the family, apparently.
He has really bad hair. And I just kept thinking, like, he sort of reminds me in a way, I don't know how political you want to get, but like, you know how Trump is also a man with a lot of money that has bad hair? Like, why does this man with all this money have bad hair? He's got bad hair.
Why did Frankie get bad hair when, like, Lola's like, here's my stylist, as if Frankie couldn't afford a good stylist? Like, I think she did it herself. Wasn't that part of it? That she was like...
That's how rich people stay rich, as they do their own hair.
Oh, is that out? Damn it!
The secret.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was avocados were the reason I wasn't rich, but it's because I go to the salon.
Obviously.
Damn it. Well, get ready for me to chop my own bangs, y'all.
So I'm pretty sure the mom's on some kind of drugs.
It sure seems like it. I think Esme's been giving her happy pills, to be honest. Right? Like, I don't know what's going on there. She definitely seems like she's artificially happy.
She's out of it.
Yeah.
She's just like, oh, you're super embarrassed, but you look so handsome. Like, she just, oh, your dad beat you? Whatever.
Right. If you care about
Jesus,
this family.
woman.
Yeah. No, there's definitely something off about her that seems like she's on something that's making her artificially happy. But then this is when Frankie makes a comment to Hunter that's like, well, you can't get out of intramural sports because gaming doesn't count. And until there's an intramural gaming team, you gotta play sports. And then he's like,
genius.
Oh my god, an intramural gaming team. And the seed is planted. Next we are in the dot. Thank God, finally. We've got Tiny and Zig. And Tiny has a shopping bag filled with something. And Zig is very confused, like what could he possibly have to solve my problem? And Tiny dumps out a bag with probably like 8 different large boxes of condoms. Like, these are not 3-packs.
I feel like he spent over $100 on these condoms.
Literally, condoms are not cheap.
Yeah.
Condoms are not cheap. Like, as a gal buys those are like, if you can get them on discount, but those are like at least $14 a box.
Right. I think they're like 10 around here.
Oh, I'm in a big city. A big city with big penises. And Tiny says, no soldier enters battle without armor. Just delightful. Another great quote.
He was killing it this episode.
He is.
I love Tiny.
Yes, and then he goes one step further and says, what Zig needs to tell Maya is, baby, I'm the captain of this love group. Hop on board.
I love the double entendre there of like hop on it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, man, like the things that they get away with this show by being like so overt and yet subtle at the same time.
Right. So I love that Zig is like takes the magnums first, and Tiny's like, are you sure about that?
Right.
You'll slide off if you're not big enough.
Right. You're like, Tiny, why, if you thought that Zig had such a teeny tiny little penis, why did you buy him magnums in the first place?
Exactly.
Like, it's almost as if he was like really, he knew that Zig was going to go for it and was like, hold on a second, pal. Let me take you down a notch.
He also bought a little lube.
Oh my God, that's right. And that, again, I was shook. Maybe that is just Tiny being like, I'm really well endowed, because how many teenagers think of lube?
I mean, they did in the movie Superbad, and it was a whole thing.
Oh, Evan, thank you for bringing that lube for my pussy. I never would have been able to handle your fucking 4-inch dick inside my pussy without that gigantic bottle of lube.
I think my high school boyfriend and I did use lube. I guess if you're losing your virginity, maybe. Because I know I was like, this would be helpful. Maybe Tiny was just being like, hey, Maya's not super experienced, and I'm just looking out for her.
Maybe.
Although he doesn't say that.
That or Tiny's a big fan of Superbad and got the idea from there.
Maybe. But it's also a really large, it's a big heaping helping. Like, it's a big bottle.
Tiny is a really generous friend. I can't think of a single friend who would show up with a Santa bag of condoms and dump it on the table for me and be like, take your pick.
Although he did say good thing I kept the receipt. So like
what's worse than going to the store and buying like 15 packs of condoms is going back and returning 14.
Right?
Especially if the Magnum ones have to go back. You're like, yeah, just kidding.
Right? He's like, turns out my friend's not as big as I am, so gonna have to return me.
Wink, wink, my friend.
Yeah, I'm glad that Tiny somehow got an advance on his allowance to buy like $140 worth of condoms, but is also frugal enough to be like, I'm going to return you when you do.
Again, that's how the rich stay rich, man. They're frugal.
Tiny goes on to say that women like men that take charge and are confident. And so basically, regardless of the fact that Maya's been giving him signals that she doesn't want to have sex, Zig needs to take the reins and just fuck her anyway.
And now Tiny becomes less likable.
Yeah, we're like, I was really on his team, being a real good friend, but then we're like, oh, Tiny, no. Stick with metaphors.
I mean, like, the confidence is a big thing. You should definitely, like, discuss confidence, but it's like, you also have to pay attention to if they actually want it.
Yep. All right. So then we hop on board back to Hollingsworth Estate, and Miles does run into his parents finally, right? Miles finally shows up. His mom is very, thanks for finally showing up, and basically tells Miles if he cares about the family, he doesn't have a choice, and he has to accept that his father is coming back.
Yikes.
Now, not right away, but he is coming back.
Mm-hmm. And this is where he says he used me as a punching bag.
Right. Like, because Miles' mom says, you're always bringing up the past. And he says, it was 6 months ago. He cheated on you, and he used me as a punching bag.
Right. And she's just like, whatever.
He's in anger management and therapy, Jess. So obviously things are fine.
He's perfect.
I feel like this is a huge part of being like a kid and a teen is just your parents just make decisions for you. And a lot of times it's like, that's a terrible decision.
Yeah, and I have to give the actor who plays Miles credit. He really went all out on the, like, when I'm around him, I can't breathe. And, like,
right.
got really exasperated, and I was like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Miles. You let her know how you feel.
And she just like doesn't like I could feel it through the screen and she's standing right there just like
Well, I'm trying to get laid consistently.
oh god. Girl, you could land a better man than that.
I know, she's a cute mom. Like, what is she doing? Get on Mom Tinder. What's the big deal?
Mom.
Yeah.
Momder.
And like, she obviously shouldn't go on Tinder
Right.
because she's not a teen, but she can go on Momder.
What I liked about this storyline, though, is that I feel like it's really true to life for so many people.
Right.
Like that, this is really a common theme in these kinds of situations where like
Mhm.
there's an abusive parent towards a child where the other parent is really quick to forgive them and expect the child to be on the same timeline and just be like, oh well, they're getting help, so it's going to be fine.
Right.
So I think I even though it's kind of a hard storyline to watch, I appreciate that it is really kind of true to life.
Yeah, there are a lot of parents out there that make very selfish decisions and don't even like consider their children, and it's very sad to watch.
And I wish that they had I wish that Miles was in therapy. Like I'm really glad Dad's in therapy, but like
Right.
why didn't anybody get any therapy for Miles, who was the punching bag?
All three of those kids. Like, can we get all three of the Hollywood kids some therapy?
Lola's been trying to get Frankie therapy for a while now.
Hair therapy.
But that's hair therapy. Therapy.
So let's see. Rich people do their own hair and don't go to therapists. So that's how they get rich. We got a couple on the plate.
So next scene, we are in Maya's living room, and Maya and Zig are doing homework. And I noticed that Zig in this scene, as well as in previous scenes, when they're talking about studying, he's like, I'm studying the lips.
Ew.
And I have to say, I think Zig is a lip man.
Yeah.
Remember, was it the first episode where he comments on her pretty lips? And I swear, in season 11, when he's dating Tori, spoiler alert, I don't know if you haven't watched season 11 yet, I swear he said something to Tori about having pretty lips or something like that. So weirdly, I think Zig is a lip man. So anyways, he is trying to get down and dirty with her and brings up a Tiny reference and says, don't you want to take a trip on this love boat? Thanks for that one, Tiny. And it is just awkward. And like you can see the moment where at first Maya's like, okay, cute, like you are taking charge and that's fine, but it's getting to a point where like I've said no and I have things to do.
Mhm.
And like you can see the struggle. Like he's holding her arm and
Right.
stuff, and she's saying how much homework she has and how busy she is, and he's just not stop. And she says no, and she says stop, and he just does it. And then she like kind of punches him in the eye.
So this is like the Degrassi baby, it's cold outside.
It was, yeah. She really couldn't stay.
Right. I got shit to do. Leave me alone.
Right. So yeah, it was definitely it was the baby it's cold outside Degrassi moment. Where it's like, obviously, yeah, she likes you, but dude, she's got homework to do. She's got shit to do. Her mind was blown by some serious figuring, and like she needs to get back to homework and the daily grind. It's just not time to fuck you right now. So yeah, and I really loved how palpable that scene was.
Mhm.
Of like not only it's very layered because not only is clearly Zig is in the wrong,
Right.
but you also see how hurt he is.
Mhm.
You know, and I think that those, especially as a teenager, those feelings are still valid because they're both trying to navigate.
Right. Neither of them know what they're doing
Yeah.
or how to do things right.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't know about like current standards of like sex education, but when I was in school, I don't think we like went into consent much at all.
I don't think
Like
we
I
did.
think
I don't think we did either.
the big thing was like don't sleep with someone who's too drunk. And that was like the biggest like conversation we had about consent.
I also it was hard to watch, but seeing how upset Maya was about making Zig upset, I feel like is so realistic in this world, like where oftentimes like women and girls end up in positions where they're doing things because they feel bad about not doing it, and like
Right.
seeing Maya feel like she was pushing him off of her because he wasn't listening, and yet then she somehow felt like she was the bad guy in that situation.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
I think like a lot of women specifically, and definitely like men too sometimes can really relate to this scene. Like I can't think of a single person who hasn't either been harassed or assaulted or pressured or something along those lines, and I feel like this scene probably registers with a lot of women.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Totally.
I have to say, in terms of like how I lost my virginity and like when my high school boyfriend and I were, experimenting, if you will.
Mhm.
Like I gotta give him credit. Shout out to Tim. Like he never ever pressured me, and it's almost odd that he didn't. Like he very much when we'd have conversations about it would be like, well, when you're ready, let me know, and like never ever pressured me, which is I think very uncommon for a lot of high school relationships.
It's sad that you're like grateful for that.
I know,
Like,
right?
we're at that state in society where you have to be grateful that someone doesn't assault you. Like,
Right? Yeah.
Jesus.
So yeah, Tim, if you're listening at home, I don't know if you watch the new class. I know you watched Next Generation because that's how we fell in love. Was watching my sister's videotaped off Noggin episodes of Degrassi, and that's how I bag a man is introduced him to Degrassi.
I think your Tinder profile should just say whatever it takes, and just the Degrassi boys will come flooding in.
They'll figure it out.
Oh, that's a good idea. I have so many ideas from my Tinder profile that I haven't changed in 2 years.
You should also say, welcome to my Tinder.
All right, so then we're cutting to a student council meeting where Hunter enters, and he'd like a moment of the president's time. And Zoe is very specific with 1 minute.
Rude.
Again, who is she? Is she the first lady? I don't know who she is in juxtaposition to Tristan.
Right.
This is 100% the scene that made me think of Austin Powers. Like, what is this conference room that they're in that has like big TVs that says student council on it? Like, I feel like they look like they're in an evil lair. Like, that does not look like a school to me.
I think Degrassi cuts their own bangs, and that's how they stay rich. But again, my notes that I took on this was like, why does Zoe hate Hunter so much?
Mhm.
Like, when to flash back to the first scene, after VJ got hit with the ball, she was like, Hunter, get in here! And he was like, I gotta help VJ. And she was like, no! I'm a Nazi about intramural sports! Get in the game! Like, I don't know what, she's got a vendetta against him for some reason, and maybe I haven't watched enough season 12 to know what that is, but I have no reason why yet.
I feel like Zoe, her backstory, she's never really been nice. She's always been this kind of like snobby, kind of like, I was on a TV show, so I'm better than everybody, kind of like
TV show
about her. It's a West Drive.
Okay.
West Drive.
Yeah, West Drive.
Was that like a teen drama show or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was on this show, and then she's like, her character dies off, so she has to go to regular high school.
Oh, for her.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Hunter brings up MOBAs, and I, honest to God, thought that they were making this up and that it was like a fake thing, like how they say Tinder and all those things. And I thought it was
Hastygram.
And Hastygram, and I thought it was a fake thing for like an RPG or a LARPing or something. But when I was typing my notes, MOBAs fucking capitalized itself and made a little S.
Oh man.
And I was like,
Really?
Okay, iPhone, MOBA's a real thing.
Meanwhile, like, autocorrect will like change all my correct words to incorrect words, but it knows MOBAs.
Yeah, no, MOBA's like, the iPhone is up on the, what was it? Okay, I didn't write it down. It's like multi-online battle arena.
Ooh.
Again, it sounded fake. It sounded fake to me. I was like, that's fake news. It's a real thing. So, and he's explaining to Tristan, like, there are colleges that have teams and they actually compete, and I don't understand why we have to play intramural sports. You said you were everyone's gay best friend, and you're not being a very good gay best friend to me.
You know, also forcing people to play sports is nards.
He did say that. He did.
That's a made up word, right? Like, what is a nards?
I think it's like balls. I think it was like,
that's what I thought.
Like, I think he said like
nads, kind of.
Yeah, like nads. Remember that hair removal cream that was called Nads?
Nair. Wasn't it Nair?
Nair. No. It was like an infomercial thing. It was like a green gel, it looked like. And you would like, I think might have been like a wax. Nads.
An Australian woman had unwanted facial hair that she just couldn't get rid of by any means until she found Nads and Sue.
Nads. Nads is totally a thing. It wasn't the daughter on the commercial like, I love Nads.
Yeah, literally. It was like, take Nads on the go. Go Nads. Like, no.
That was a good one, Carly. The gonads was good. You got me there.
Hey, thanks. Call me Tiny.
So I Googled the word nard, and according to the dictionary, it's the Himalayan spikenard.
What? That doesn't explain anything to me.
But according to Urban Dictionary, it's a reference to testicles or bravado.
Bravado.
So people who play intramural sports are either testicles or brave.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if that works very well for me. Like, I don't know if replacing nards with balls really make much sense to me. Like, you're forcing people to play sports, that's balls. That doesn't work.
Well, because I think he said it was like crazy nards or something. I don't know.
Crazy balls?
Like crazy balls. I saw The Office with Nard Dog, Andy's character. But anyway.
So is that Balls Dog?
Yeah, Balls Dog and Nard Dog. So anyways, Hunter basically goes the fuck off. That is like super rude, and then it's like, thank you for your time, and leaves. And Tristan is just left there looking a little perplexed, if you will.
Well, Hunter's like, if you don't do this, you'll be a total liar.
That's true.
Like, you told me you would make this a place for me, and yet here you are not doing that.
Not everyone's gay best friend. Next, we are back in class, and we've got Zig and Tiny, and they are having a conversation. Tiny is like, hey, so, did you get some? And then Zig is like, well, it didn't really work. I think she wants to break up. And what fascinated me is because they didn't really say that Zig forced himself on her. It's just like, did you get some? And he was like, I think Maya wants to break up. Right. It didn't really work. And Grace is like, maybe she doesn't want to be raped.
Yeah, it was definitely 0 to 100 there.
Yeah, because I was like, there wasn't anything in their conversation that led me to think that I would walk in and think that's what happened.
I wonder, did she talk to Maya? And Maya was like,
yes. That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, I think Maya must, because her and Grace are friends, so I'm thinking Maya must have talked to her, because the way Grace came in and right off the bat was like, maybe she don't want to be raped. I was like, damn, I don't know how you would have gotten that if you hadn't heard that from their conversation. And I love that they're like, can you stop saying the R word?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is, for boys, that they are very afraid of that word.
I mean, I think they have this idea of themselves, like, I could never be that person.
And because he says, she's my girlfriend.
Right.
Like, I couldn't rape her, she's my girlfriend. And Grace is like, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, she says some really good stuff like...
yeah, she does.
She says something like, just because you have sex once doesn't mean you're obligated to do it again, or open for business, like whenever. She definitely like lays it out there for them, and they're like, what?
I think it was a great scene, but it also felt to me like I was watching just like a well-acted PSA, or a like sort of well-acted PSA, because it just hit on every...
Why are you talking shit about the actors on Degrassi right now?
I mean, I guess well-acted just felt a little strong. I felt like I was coming on a little strong by saying well-acted.
A mediocre at best acted PSA.
And so it did it, like I was watching it and I'm like, wow, they're just like making sure they go down the checklist of all of the things in the consent workshops that we teach. Like, we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about this. So, I mean, it was good, but it also felt a little, maybe it's me because I talk about this all the time, but it felt a little hokey to me.
I think, I don't disagree with you. I think for me, it was because there was no context of how Grace would have known that situation happened, and she just went right to rape, as opposed to the fact that they didn't really say anything that would lead most people to believe that that's what happened.
Right.
I can read that as a little hokey. That's like, but wait, why did you immediately jump to that? I don't assume that you think that about Zig. He is a friend of yours. But I also feel like, I think PSA or not, those messages aren't necessarily in a lot of television programs, let alone for teenagers.
Oh, totally.
That's a huge part of like TV and how it kind of warps your mind as you're growing up, is that they don't practice consent. They don't talk about consent.
Oh, yeah.
Like most TV shows, it's just like, I'm here, you're here. We just start making out. Like there's no discussion.
Yeah, and you don't see anybody pull out condoms. Like I always think that's really interesting that you don't have a lot of discussion about safe sex. It's just like, oh, you just go right to sex.
Right.
Yeah. And if they do pull out condoms, there's 100% no lube ever. Like, I feel like, we were sort of talking about that a little bit before about like how Tiny had the lube, but like, I can't think of a television show or movie where I have ever seen anybody like have a bottle of lube that they were using or anything. Like, that's just not something that I've ever seen on television or in a movie.
It's only like in shows and movies that are like specifically focusing on it. It's not a casual thing in movies and TV to acknowledge stuff like that, unless it's like, oh, we're foreshadowing that they're going to get pregnant or something like that. But in general, you don't focus on that at all. And it's just this like hyper, quote unquote romantic, passionate, we're just, crashing into each other kind of thing that they normally show on TV.
But I mean, it's interesting how much not only television and movies, but, even linking to like the porn industry, how much these industries are really catered to men in the idea that women are enjoying themselves the whole time. And like in TV and movies, it's like, that woman just had an orgasm in 3 minutes. Or like in the porn industry, when it's like, that woman looks like she's in pain.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what men are into?
Yeah, porn is not great for me because I'm like, that position looks terrible.
Yeah, like it's never about the woman, and it's always like, oh, okay. I saw like a GIF or not a GIF, like a meme online, and it was a bunch of pictures of women, and it was like, or their faces, and it was like, figure out which women's faces are in porn and which women's faces are giving birth.
Oh, God.
Wow.
And it's like, that's, yeah, like the faces of anguish. And it's like, damn, these industries are really catered towards men.
Yeah, I mean, in general, media, porn, all these things like give, especially like impressionable teenagers who have access to it all, because all you have to do is claim you're 18 on the internet to see porn. Like, I think they get so many more messages about sex from TV, porn, stuff like that, and they barely get any good information about it. Parents don't really want to talk about it.
So yeah, I will say is I agree with you, Alyssa, that it was a little PSAE, but sadly, like, damn, that's kind of what kids need.
Yeah, it was an important but heavy-handed scene.
Right.
Yeah, no, totally. But I do gotta say, what the fuck, Grace? When Zig gets that text and she just like cranes her head over and is like, well, it's Maya. I read all your texts.
Grace is me.
I was like, you rude bitch. You literally, like, I know we as an audience saw that it was Maya saying, can you come over after school? Right. But like, Grace leaned the fuck over and was like, what's going on your phone? Oh, well, I guess it's fine.
I'm like the person who watches TV, like reality TV, and they show like a cell phone message and I pause it. Like, what does it say?
You shady bitch. Okay, so next we are in the hallway again. And we have Miles and Winston, and they're chatting. And Miles makes reference to the fact that Esme is the cause of all his problems as they approach her at her locker. And she's like, oh, did you come up here to say you're welcome? And he's like, what the F are you talking about? And she expresses that, oh, well, I got you out of that dinner. that you didn't want to go to because I got you a detention for cutting my own hair. I have to say, I'm like, Esme, how did you know he'd get a detention? Because honestly, I think cutting a chunk of a girl's hair, that much hair, would be cause for suspension. Personally, like,
Yep.
they really, it was like, you get one detention for the fact that you just ruined that girl's hair. But anyway, so yeah, so she expresses that she's about solving problems as opposed to whining about them.
Right.
Esme is a super spy. Like, I feel like she knows from that one, like, 30-second conversation that she overheard, she now knows so much about Miles' life.
Right? Like, I mean, granted, everybody in that class should know exactly what's going on in Miles' life because it wasn't like they were talking quietly. But yeah, she planned a whole fucking espionage based on that one, like, 2-minute conversation and then figured out how to solve this problem by cutting, like, how did you come, like, I'm going to cut my hair so he gets attention to get out of this, and then I'm going to tell him to break into his dad's apartment. Like, okay, okay.
Whose mind works like that?
Yeah, like, I was
so
like,
many angles.
I was
to
like,
one move.
You've clearly done this before. Like, this
is her MO.
Yeah.
I love how when they walk in, Miles is like, my mom thinks I'm a bad guy. And Winston's like, my mom thinks I'm a bad cook. Oh, sorry, your problem is bigger.
That was a great line.
Winston is so unhelpful.
I love Winston.
He just has the worst takes. I mean, they're always funny, but he's always just saying something idiotic.
Then we're in the greenhouse, and it's Hunter, and I'm gonna keep saying Yael.
That sounds right.
I think that's
they
right.
haven't
It
introduced
sounds
her
right.
yet. I mean, they haven't said her name yet in this series, so jury's out.
Yeah, so I think it's Yael, but anyways, we'll get there. I apologize to everybody at home who's like nails on a chalkboard if you're like, that is not her name. But we're fucking it up for y'all to enjoy. My notes that I wrote was, oh my God, Hunter, are you kidding me? So he wants Yael to smash his hand with a hammer so that he can get out of intramural sports. Because if he has a broken finger, then he won't have to play basketball.
And that's tomorrow's problem.
Right? I was like, this could not be more Crazy Town USA. But what it did remind me of, and as we were discussing, Jesse, that, my sister, your cousin, she identified with Hunter on this because, cute little story, when we were kids, I don't know if I was born yet or not, but my dad, who, loved to golf, he signed my sister and my brother up for golf lessons, and they both hated it. And so my sister literally clubbed herself in the ankle.
She did?
To get out of golf lessons.
I don't remember this.
Yes! She hit herself. Yeah, she's crazy. She's just a crazy Hunter.
She should have been your guest this week instead of me. She's got
I
that
know,
story.
I'm so sorry, Alyssa. So sorry. Yeah, so she hit herself in the ankle with a golf club.
Jesus.
And then was like, I have to go to the clubhouse. And my brother was like, I gotta go with her. She's my sister. And I care about her.
Perfect.
So, so basically, long story short, my sister, your cousin, Alyssa's friend, is a sociopath. Hunter is asking Yael to hammer his finger to break it in order to get out of intramural sports. So my favorite is that Hunter is like, should I get a pencil? Ah! Yael was not waiting for him to get a pencil to crunch between his teeth. He was slamming his fucking finger with a goddamn hammer, like also a sociopath. I couldn't do that to a friend.
Like, I can't imagine doing that to somebody.
I know! She was like...
You're like, no, someone else can do this for you. You can do it yourself. Fuck
I
you.
know! She was like, are you sure? And he's like, I'm sure. Okay, what should I... Apparently, if you're looking to be euthanized...
Yael will do
then
it.
Yael... Yeah, she's there for you. Next, we're at Maya's house. And Zig enters. And because, Maya asked him to come over after school. And Maya's mom is sitting on the couch, and Maya's just like, hey, my mom wants to talk to us. She has no idea why. So they have a seat, and Maya's mom, who I have to say is cool as hell, like not many Not many parents would do this.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
so she starts asking them, about having sex, and they get super uncomfortable. And she lets Zig know that Maya is on the pill and hasn't been tested, and all these things. And they're like, "What? We're not having sex." And Maya's mom is like, "But I found this 12-pack of condoms."
Better than a Santa sack of condoms.
Maya is, upset because she doesn't understand why Zig even had those in the house. And honestly, I don't know how he's that fucking stupid that he left them.
What? Yeah, where did he put them that the mom found them?
Right. Like, what? He just left them on the couch.
Did they fall out of a bag?
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
was
I
very
don't know.
confused.
Is she regularly like searching his stuff? Creepy.
I don't think so. I think Zig is just that much of an idiot that they fell out of some bag.
They fell into the under the couch, and Mom found them while she was cleaning.
Yeah, and so then Maya's mom makes the point that they're super awkward and uncomfortable, and that she's like, if you can't have a conversation about having sex, should you really be having sex?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a solid piece of advice that I have given.
Very good.
Yeah, I feel like I've given that to so many people, and yet I don't know that I necessarily take that advice myself.
Right.
But I feel like that's something I've definitely told friends.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was a good take from the mom. Like, that's a good thing to say.
Yeah, she's cool as hell. Like,
Yeah.
not like how many moms would sit down and be like, "But guys, can we really talk about this? Like STDs, condoms, like, don't be stupid."
Yeah, I thought it was a good take. I will say, though, that I was very distracted by Maya's terrible pants in this scene. She was wearing like these, what looked like sort of like cropped velour sweatpants with giant holes in the knees. And I just like it just was very distracting to me. I couldn't really focus on what Mom was saying about sex ed because I was very distracted by Maya's fashion choices.
You noticed the fashion a lot more than me. What, holes in your knees?
I live for Degrassi fashion.
That's how you get pregnant, Alyssa. You weren't listening to any of the sex talk.
Through the holes in the pants? Is that what happens?
You were staring at the holes in her pants, and those were metaphors for holes in condoms.
Oh, it all makes sense now.
That's why you were a pregnant teen.
Is the velour for her pleasure? Is that what that means?
Absolutely.
The velour's for our pleasure.
It's certainly not for his pleasure. It's 1000% for our pleasure. But yeah, I just really appreciated that take of the mom being like, let's be serious here, guys.
Right. And she's just like, if you can't talk about it, I don't think you're ready. And I think like that's a huge thing for a lot of teens. Like they can't talk about it because like who can they talk about it with? A lot of parents don't want to talk about it.
Right.
And a lot of like the conversation that happens in high school is like the crap Tiny was saying,
Yep.
I think like a lot of parents just are so uncomfortable talking about it that their kids never really get a good talk.
Mm-hmm.
And this mom was like nailing it.
I know my fear is that like I, as a babysitter, like I've been at a house with like a teenager that I bring her to her activities and stuff. And I was there the first day she got her period, and like when she's getting into fights with friends and stuff, and it's all like middle school drama. And I feel like I give her solid advice, but I can't do it without crying. Like I'm just like, I love you so much. I don't want you to hurt. I'm sorry that your friends are being mean to you. And it's like she has to like low key comfort me. And I'm like, no, but it's just like you should talk to them and it's fine. So that's probably what my future holds. Because, when and if I have children, I'm gonna be like, you can come to me now. Like they're like, Mom, I literally don't want to talk.
I mean, that's like perfectly describing my situation. I was like a really good kid. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do any of that. But I had like one beer one night at somebody's house and we were all safe. We stayed there for the night. We didn't like get drunk. We had a beer or two apiece. And this girl was like bragging in class, and it happened to be a class that my mom was subbing for.
Oh no.
So she goes up to her desk and she goes, "My daughter won't be hanging out with you anymore."
Oh.
Comes in, finds me in the hallway and is crying in the hallway.
Oh.
And I'm just like,
Oh,
Mom,
no.
I was as responsible as I could possibly be.
Right.
I couldn't talk to my mom about that stuff because I didn't want to hurt her feelings.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was 16, I asked my mom if I could go on birth control. And it was literally because honestly, puberty for me, I mean, I'm a crier now, but when I was going through puberty,
Mm-hmm.
it was like one time I asked my dad to grate cheese because I was making cheesy potatoes. He moved it, and I was like, "That is not what I asked you to do!" Like, and that's
Oh.
what I was during puberty.
Right.
So, like, I asked mom if I could go on birth control because I wanted it to, like, even out my hormones and therefore, like, calm me down.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what my best friend was on the pill in order to, like, calm her down during her period. And my mom was just like, there are so many other things that can happen besides getting pregnant, STDs and this and that, and, like, would not even entertain the idea of me being on the pill. And I literally wasn't even sexually active at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a boyfriend, but I was not at all sexually active. But I mean, I was sexually active, but not sex.
Right.
I was getting my mind blown by some fingering, but I wasn't having sex.
By the fingering.
Carly, your mom and my mom must have gone to the same like school of shaming and instilling fear in their children about going on birth control because my mom didn't say anything, so I wanted to go on birth control because I had horrible cramps. Like I would have to miss school. They were really bad. And I had an appointment to go to the gynecologist. Like my mom like started out very supportive, like, yeah, of course. And then the day before my appointment, she's like, do you know what the gynecologist is going to do? Do you know what they're going to put inside of your vagina to like do this
God.
exam? And she just like traumatized me. I was like,
Oh.
oh my God, I don't want to go there. And like, I was such a late bloomer when it came to sex. Like I didn't lose my virginity until I was in college. Like I think that this all happened before I'd even kissed a boy. So I was like, oh my God, they're going to do what? Like I didn't even use tampons.
Right.
So she's like, they're going to take the speculum and these are going to like open your vagina. And I was just like, oh my God, like cancel my appointment.
The gynecologist like, ring.
I didn't go on birth control until I was in college.
Oh.
Like exactly, it was terrifying. I mean, like I don't certainly obviously like fear tactics don't work for most people, but they work on me. Like, I'm always easily terrified of anything. Like you could scare me straight from just about anything.
I agree. I feel like I was very easily scared. Like that's why I only had a beer or two in high school because I was terrified of everything.
So then we are in the Hollingsworth dad pad, as Jesse has padded it. And we've got Miles and Esme. And they, again, clearly Esme has done this before because she immediately is like, where's your dad's laptop? And Miles is like, I don't know. And she literally opens one door and then the next drawer is like found it. And it was like,
Oh yeah, I was really annoyed by that place. I was like, who keeps their laptop in a drawer?
Not me.
yeah, I was like, that's odd, an odd place to keep a laptop, but okay. So she finds the laptop and she's like, what's the password? And he's like, I don't know. I've tried everything. Pet names, birthdays. Like I've tried everything. And she's like, what's your middle name? He's like, David, but I really don't think I'm in.
I'm
Old
in.
people are stupid.
Master hacker. I really hope she took the time to go on his Facebook profile and go, LOL hacked.
Oh God! I actually really hope that. What's the name of that? What's the name of those like serious hackers? What are they called?
Anonymous?
Oh.
Anonymous. Like I really hope that Anonymous is just out here being like, what's the oldest child's middle name? Got it. Got their Chase password. We're in their bank account. So anyways, she's Esme automatically hacker extraordinary. Then the dad's left. Miles immediately opens the email and finds an email directed to the mistress that says, my wife is giving me a second chance. I need to be a part of my family again. I can't do this anymore. When they hear the door being locked. So obviously, the most convenient place to go is hide in the closet.
Obviously.
Trapped in the closet.
Exactly. He pulls out his Beretta.
Oh my God, it's a maid.
Casting agents out there listening to this, if anybody's doing a live action R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet, my goal in life is to play Bridget in the stage version of R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet. So just want to put that out there.
Out in the universe. Manifest it.
Thank you for your time. So they're hiding in the closet, and Miles won't shut the fuck up. So Esme decides to kiss him because that's the most logical thing to do, to shut a boy up, and she's a problem solver. He's confused, and she expresses that, remember, I'm new, and I need to make friends.
Esme is here to make friends. Unlike most reality TV contestants, Esme is here to make friends.
I didn't come here to make friends. I'm not here to make friends.
I'm not here to make friends.
I'm not here to make friends.
I ain't here to make no friends.
She's not here to win. She's here to make friends. That's another thing I should put in the universe. I really want to be in The Bachelor, and I'll also be there to make friends and not win. But
I mean, yeah, because the men are always trash. So.
Exactly. I'm not trying to marry Colton. Fuck that. But I do want to make friends. So we're back in class, and Maya is talking to Zig, and she's basically saying that, well, her exact words are that I can love you and not wanna. And so Zig is confused.
Yeah.
And then 2 seconds later, Maya goes, who said I didn't want to?
You
and it was
did.
like, girl, you just said that like 2 seconds ago. But anyway, so they're beginning to talk through their problems and saying things like, Maya's expressing that she's scared and, what if we start and I don't want to anymore? And Big, is finally getting it and saying, well, stop. Like, I don't ever want to make you feel like you're doing something you don't want to do.
Right.
And it's a really beautiful moment that you're just like, oh, how are these teenagers working through these problems better than most adults?
And I think like the worst thing that you can do when your partner like isn't sure is to put more pressure on them. Like that's only going to make your situation worse.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I thought this was a good scene. I will say, and this is really nitpicky, but what Zig actually said to her was, I never want to feel like I'm forcing you.
Right.
And I wanted to just reach through the TV and be like, you never want to force her. It's not really about how you feel, Zig.
Damn, you right.
I mean, and it was like the whole scene, like overall was a really good scene. And I thought it was really, again, like another moment of Degrassi talking about things that most other television shows aren't talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But that line just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. I think like a lot of people have a tendency to like make the fact that they hurt someone or like pressured someone or whatever about themselves. And it's just like, nope. It's like when people apologize and they're like, I'm sorry that you felt this way.
Yeah.
So then the next scene, we are in the hallway again, and we've got our nerd squad, and Tristan goes up to Hunter, and, basically, well, he starts to tell Hunter the good news, but VJ is like, hi, Tristan, I voted for you. Like, oh, girl crush. Oh, and I should mention first that I really love the line about, they were talking about Hunter's, broken finger, and like, oh, great. You got out of intramurals for the next month. And then Sad is like, sweet IRL.
Wait.
And I thought that was a good line.
Wait, what did he say?
He said, sweet IRL.
What does that mean?
Like in real life?
In real life.
In real life?
Yeah, like you
I mean, yeah,
really.
I know what IRL means.
You got your finger hammered IRL. That was sweet. President Tristan lets Hunter know that he is going to get his gamers club. And Hunter is like, oh my God, no one's ever taken my ideas seriously. So it's a real happy ending for now for Hunter.
I'm glad that the Nerd Squad is now official.
Yeah.
I have to put out there another fashion point. Tristan's shirt in this scene is a hot mess. Like, he looks like he's on his way to Margaritaville. Like, he normally looks so good, and now he's like wearing this like weird tropical print t-shirt. Like, I don't know. It's bad.
Once more, Miles is trying to tell Winston how awful his dad is and abusive, making really serious accusations. So yeah, Esme shows up and he makes that reference of like, we should get coffee sometime or commit a sexy felony.
I'd love to commit a sexy felony.
And she just like bats her hand, like, get away. And so Winston leaves and Miles and Esme have a conversation. But she takes out a prescription drug, hands them to Miles, and is like, these are my happy pills. Take 2 and call me in the morning, or don't. Kisses them on the cheek, and then leave. Mic drop.
So, like, at one point she says something like, there are always going to be people in your life you don't like. And I'm like, dude, beat him.
Right?
Like, come on.
I don't think she knows that yet.
I guess, does she know that?
Her super spy decoder ring hasn't picked that up yet.
Right.
She's just picked up all the other stuff.
So now Miles and his mom are going to be on happy pills together.
That's true. They're all going to just feel serene and not feel a thing. All right. So then we are in Maya's room. This is the last scene of the episode. And Maya and Zig, almost an homage to the first scene, really, that they were in together when they're doing homework. And it's just a very different scene than when we first saw them together. They're both doing homework. Zig is like, can I come sit next to you? And she's like, okay. And she's like, should I close my laptop? And he's like, or I can. And they're like, okay, that was weird.
Which was like, ooh, yeah, you could close my laptop.
And I did want to say that one of the things that Maya says when we're doing homework is she's like, I just put a chord progression in this essay. Like, my brain is so fried. And I'm like, bitch, how? And who are you like?
She just started drawing notes.
Yeah, like, how are you writing about, George Washington, and then it's like
EAG.
Yeah, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But anyways, her brain is fried. She has so much going on. So yeah, Zig offers to close her laptop for her, or she can do it herself. And it's just a very different conversation. I think it's a really endearing scene where he's like, is it okay if I kiss your neck? And you really do see kind of, because we are such a society that is saturated with rape culture, that it's so foreign that he is asking permission to do anything to her sexually that it makes it awkward.
Right.
But it shouldn't be. And I think it's such a beautiful scene that we see them, finally realizing that, like, it's not that Maya doesn't want sex. She just wants the moment to be right, and she wants to feel comfortable, and she wants to feel supported. And so, so they're making out, and she's like, please have sex. And it looks right. It doesn't look like it's going to be awkward. Like, it's just nice to see them finally looking.
Well, I think, like, this is kind of an interesting scene because a lot of, like, rapey guys out there are really concerned about the idea, like, do I really have to ask for every single thing I do? What is this? And it's like, I found that scene interesting because that is kind of like the example people go for of, like, you have to ask even just to sit next to somebody. And, like, that's not what it's like really, but it's a nice way to, like, start so you're safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people, a lot of men specifically, are very, very much up in arms about the idea of asking someone if they want to have sex, if they want to kiss, all that stuff. They're like, it's not romantic or it's not passionate and all this stuff. And it's like, that concept has been very ingrained in our culture that it's not romantic to ask.
100%. And I think that the way that they did this made it look like they were still very much in love and that it was still a passion-driven sexual encounter promoting consent.
I liked, too, that both Maya and Zig acknowledged that it felt like a foreign concept to do this, like to ask all of that permission. Like, I think it's so ingrained in all of us that you don't do that I appreciated that both of the characters sort of, like, just acknowledged that it felt a little bit strange. Like, not necessarily in a bad way, and that it obviously had, a good ending or a good outcome for them because they had sex and they both wanted to, but that they sort of just acknowledged that it was not something that is commonplace.
But it's also, like, not necessarily something that is always needed. It's just like, once you get to know each other and you understand each other's, vibes and what they're giving off, like, you don't have to keep doing that, like, ask for every single thing. But, like, it is a good way to start because especially your first, second, third time, it's like, it's a big deal and you don't really know what you're doing. And if you can't, like, talk about it and make sure the other person's okay, like, make sure they want it, then it's going to turn out to be a very bad experience.
Yeah, so I just thought that the way that whole episode ended was, I felt like it was a really beautiful moment. I felt like it was a really great way of promoting consent, but also showing that you can have consent and still have good sex, emotional sex,
Mm-hmm.
love being displayed through sex, regardless of needing that consent.
So when it comes to like the themes of this episode, I thought that like it was a lot less straightforward how they were all connected. But I think to me, the overarching theme is consent in general. Not just like sexual consent, but like Miles doesn't consent for his father to come back in his house, and the mother's just like whatever, they don't care about that. Hunter doesn't consent to playing sports, and he's being forced to through the school. And like I guess these are like three different storylines about, you know, your autonomy as a person and being, you know, denied that, or eventually like if you stand up for yourself getting that. You know, Maya wound up standing up for herself, Hunter stood up for himself, and they both wound up like doing okay. Miles, on the other hand, his mother does not care about what he wants.
That's a much better overarching theme than I came up with.
It was really hard this week.
I was like, take control of your own destiny. Don't sit idly by and let things just happen to you. I'm like, thank God Jesse took the reins on that one. So I was like, I had nothing. But that was beautiful, Jesse. Thank you.
Mean, that was all I had. It was really hard because I was really used to like so far the themes being really clear and everybody going through something really similar. And I'm just like, wait, this was all over the place. But I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's all about people, you know, trying to stand up for themselves and say, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is what I don't want. And whether or not people are going to listen to them and give them what they want is the question.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, so anybody have any last thoughts?
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming over and staying for like 2.5 hours.
Thank you for being on. And thanks again to all our loyal listeners. I know one of them was on the show tonight, so hopefully she'll listen. And I know of at least 2 other people who are listening. So thanks, guys, for checking in and for, you know, all of our followers on social media. Once again, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at A Social Disease. And our email is at a socialdiseasepodcast@gmail.com.
And yeah, we'd love to hear your stories that go there. So either from junior high, high school, college, I mean, even if it was like last week, but it relates to the story, we'd love to hear about it for next week's episode. We record every Wednesday, so if you get your feedback in by Wednesday, it might air on the show. And once again, we're your hosts, Jesse Mack
and Carly Jo Gear.
And this has been a Social Disease Podcast.
Thanks for listening.